let's go here. And bad game last night once again for the San Francisco 49ers, who are struggling mightily, struggling this
Struggling
season
big
now, and
time.
they're in a tough division to be struggling, and they're at the bottom of the NFC West, which is the best division in sports. I think we could agree, or at least the best in the NFC for sure. Maybe injuries is not quite the best in the whole league. That's debatable, but San Francisco is 2-4, Rob, and Kyle Shanahan, the head coach there, he was iffy on whether Jimmy G is going to remain a start. Jimmy G had, and you and I have kind of, we've defended Jimmy G because one thing he's done is win. We've said he's not Aaron Rodgers, but the dude is one, and you can't deny that. But yesterday, Jimmy G was just bad. 16 for 27, 187 yards passing, a touchdown, but also a fumble and 2 picks, Rob.
Bad,
And so
real bad.
What's going to happen if he stays healthy and his calf is still bothering him? Is I imagine, Rob, he'll start until it looks clear. It's clear that they're not making the playoffs. And then once they're out of it, you got to go with Trey Lance because we know Trey Lance is your future. And you'll live with his struggles and his adjustments to the NFL and all of that stuff, the mistakes and everything else. But he'll be your quarterback of the future. I would imagine that's how they're going to go. But we're not going to focus on the quarterback situation, Rob. We're going to focus on Kyle Shanahan because there are whispers from us, shouts, that Kyle Shanahan's kind of getting a pass. I mean, you hear about Jimmy G losing his job, Jimmy G being on the outs. Rob, Kyle Shanahan, this is his 5th season as the coach of the 49ers. Here's his record. 6 wins his first season. That means 10 losses. 4 wins his second season. 13-3 the next year when Jimmy G helps them get to the Super Bowl. Great defense. 6-10 a year ago. They had injuries. And now they're 2-4, Rob. And you have long called out Kyle Shanahan. And I imagine right now, you're not having it.
Chris, the record speaks for itself. We remember he got that big deal after he choked down that Super Bowl to New England. You remember that. He wasn't the head coach, but he was the offensive coordinator. And he had the deal. He had his deal in the back pocket, pocket. Remember that?
Bad decision.
And it was just bad. I mean, they were already in field goal range. They could have kicked the field goal, Chris. 1st and 10 at the 22. Had they run the ball twice, 3 times forward, right? Move up, kick a field goal. They're up by 11. Brady can't beat them. Instead, they try to pass the ball late in the game. They get sacked. There's a holding. They get taken out of field goal range. Brady marches down. Touchdown, and then the 2-point conversion tie, and then they lose in overtime.
Right.
Then they get to the Super Bowl in San Francisco, Chris, and the same thing, they decide they're running the football the entire game.
And they ran it just to get to the Super Bowl.
Right. Remember they ran over the Packers.
One game?
Right. That's what they did. And then when they needed to do it, in the second half late, they throwing the ball around the field. I just don't get it. But anyway, we get it. His father was a great coach in the NFL, Mike Shanahan. And he's part of a tradition-laden family, Chris. And people call him offensive genius and all that other stuff. Guru, quarterback whisperer, whatever you want to call him. I get all that.
And people really do think of this dude
No, they do.
as an offensive genius. Like,
They
he's
do.
so creative. And, Rob, I think that's part of it. Like, he gets cute. You mentioned it. Throwing the football late against New England. When you had the huge lead, you could have run it. Throwing the football late against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. When you've been running it the whole time.
And
you coulda
successfully. Right.
You want to show everybody what you can do.
You're the smartest guy in the room.
Right. That's the thinking of why, and I get it, Garoppolo's not great. And there's a thought that, oh my gosh, look, Trey Lance, what in the world could I do with him? Right?
Right.
So
right.
many options.
He's a new toy.
Right. I can just empty my entire playbook
and show how
but
smart
should
I
he get
am.
the chance? Right. Go ahead.
Yeah. And the bottom line, Chris, is they've lost now 7 straight home games in the NFL. I don't care who you are. 7 straight home games for a team that went to the Super Bowl not 10 years ago,
right?
A couple of years ago.
Right.
And, you want to blame, it could wind up being a Jimmy G, Jared Goff thing, Chris, where, you got that young whippersnapper, offensive genius who blames the quarterback, and says, it ain't me.
It's gonna be. I mean,
no, all right, it ain't me.
Garoppolo, you know that.
Right. I got to get my own guy in here, and I got to do that, and that might be it. But I'm telling you, if I'm in San Francisco, I got to start to look at Shanahan and wonder, can this guy win? Can this guy really get this thing turned around and win? Because other than the Super Bowl year, Chris, the record is not good. That was a game they needed to win desperately last night, I thought. I really did. I thought they needed that game. Colts needed it too.
Agree.
Colts come in at 2-4. You can't beat them at home.
Well, I agree with you. It was really like a must win for both teams.
It was
right,
but I thought
Indianapolis
because San
is
Francisco
starting to play well.
Oh no, they're
won
playing
3 of their
much
last
better.
4.
Much
yeah.
better.
But to your point, there's no reason San Francisco shouldn't be able to go in there and beat them. No reason whatsoever. And like you said, that was a game that they needed. And look, I'm going to be fair. Their injuries have been a big factor. We've talked about it. They've been 20. At one point, they were 24-6 with Garoppolo as a starter, 24-7, something like that. They were winning a lot of games with him as a starter. But they were 7-27 with him injured. All right, Rob G, check those numbers. But so injuries have been a factor, and it wasn't just Garoppolo last year. George Kittle's out. The defensive players are out. Running backs are out. So I get all that. But, Rob, I also say you got to look at what kind of program we running where our guys keep getting injured too. And again, I'm not saying you put all that on Shanahan, but if your guys are getting injured a lot more than everybody else's, then you're not doing something right. But here's the thing, Rob, the offensive genius stuff. He developed it as an offensive coordinator, right? Had the great season with RG3 in 2012. Yep. They scored the 4th most points in the league. And that's when all of a sudden he became this offensive genius.
And you remember that, Chris. That's when they won their last 7 games, you remember?
Yep.
And
RG3
was the biggest thing.
Change the position.
Man.
Right? He was supposed to be what Lamar Jackson's been.
And, man, did I get into that buzzsaw, because that's how big he was at that time.
Yeah, that's why you're here.
That's why.
Hey, God works all things together for
good,
that, brother.
Hey, I feel blessed. You never know how things work out.
I don't think you want to bump into RG3 in a dark alley.
What? That's all good. It's all good. We're good.
But anyway, Rob, let me go here. Because, look, I judge. I'd like to hear your view. When you look at statistics, particularly if you look at ESPN.com and you look at the way they rank the offenses, and a lot of people do this, a lot of outlets do this. They rank them by yards, right? To me, the best indicator of a strong offense is points per game. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about, putting up points. And, Rob, we've talked about it. We talked about it with quarterbacks. A lot of times you can put up a lot of yards that don't mean anything.
No.
Empty calories, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of those yards. Yep.
Yeah, teams going to prevent. Now now you got 400 yards of offense, but you got beat by 25.
I was going to say, you were 190, Chris, when the game mattered, and then by the time the game's over, you got 385.
Right,
and you're
exactly.
like, man, he put up 385.
Exactly. And so when I'm looking at the offensive points per game for Kyle Shanahan as an offensive coordinator, he's been all over Houston, Washington, Cleveland, Atlanta. And, obviously he's the head coach now in San Francisco. So combining all those years, and that's 14 years, Rob. His offense in points per game, 9 of those years, they've been 20 or below in points per game. 20 or below in 9 of the 14 years. And in San Francisco, 4 of his 5 years, they've been 20 or below as a head coach. And so how is that jibe, Rob, with the image of being an offensive genius? Where does that come from? And like you said, Dad was an awesome coach. I'm sure Kyle's smart. I mean, we see the things he comes up with. Yeah. But the bottom line is not working. It's not working. And that's all we're saying is that you're looking at Jimmy G. You're looking at the players. You're going to look at Trey Lance. You got to look at Kyle Shanahan, too. I don't know that I'm not calling for his job necessarily. I don't know that.
No, but we got to look at it, Chris. I think it's only fair.
Absolutely. Yep. I mean, come on.
If his last name wasn't Shanahan, I don't know if you know what I mean. You start to think.
You survive this? Right. Exactly. Do you survive this? Matt Nagy may not survive this. And he's had fewer years than 5. So